We're here in the beautiful Amsterdam, Beursplein 5, and we're here with Aleksandr Bulkin, all from New York City. How are you doing, Aleksandr?
Great, thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Aleksandr, you're from Coinfund. Perhaps you can introduce what is Coinfund actually?
So Coinfund is an investment company in New York. We invest in crypto native projects. We also help projects. We help understand the space. We help educate people. We have a great community of friends in the States and around the world. And we generally just love to think about crypto and technology and innovation.
All right. And actually, if you look at your profile, you got 14 years at Goldman Sachs. And what was your choice to move into crypto and leave the financial sector behind?
Well, that's a great question. I think I did it because I am interested in moving things along into the future and not so interested in keeping things status quo. And working on Wall Street was great. It taught me a lot about how a large company works and about many things, including various engineering and technology elements of them. I worked with some smartest people I ever knew there. But eventually you kind of realize that if you have a dream, then it's time to go and put it together.
What attracts you in the crypto space?
Well, so what attracts me is the ability to go to the very bottom of what it means of what economics means and what incentives mean. And I feel that with crypto we have a unique opportunity to rethink some very basic and fundamental things in society. And I think that can create the push to the next level of us as the entire species.
So it can really democratize current systems, current financial systems, current power relations.
Yeah, so if you think of every example of where economics goes wrong, I think there's a chance that we can address those. So for example, let's take two polar opposites, right? Let's take extreme poverty on one hand, and let's take large capital investments on the other end. Both of those types of players, on one hand really poor people and on the other hand really rich people, they exist kind of outside of the economic system. So the very poor have no access to it. So we're talking about democratization of banking and finance and inclusion, financial inclusion and financial justice, right? On the other hand, when you talk about investors, they are very often kind of playing their own game in a way that takes value away from the system, not puts the value back into it. And so with crypto and various token economic models, we again see an opportunity to make something that works better in a more aligned way, where when you put capital into the system, you also help it grow rather than take the energy out of it.
And actually, you told me that one of the products or services is actually to invent like a blockchain protocol, plug and play ecosystem for projects. I mean, maybe you can explain better actually.
Yeah, thank you. So after having looked at the space for many years, 3 years, after analyzing many different projects, also from the perspective of my experience with technology, I decided to put a little bit of effort into kind of fixing how crypto works, because let me name two main problems there. First one is that the innovation cycle in crypto is actually really slow, because once you put out a platform and a protocol, it takes a year to build, and then some time to test, and then a year or two to see actually whether it works well. So the real cycle is about 3 to 5 years long of trying a new model and then seeing whether it works or not. The second problem in crypto is that it's very hard to learn and reuse the experience of others. There's very little reusable code, even in Solidity and Ethereum. And that's because every platform right now is using its own way of doing things and its own model, and it's all grown from the bottom up.
All these silos. I mean,
That's right. It's all those silos. And so the project I'm working on, which is a nonprofit project, it's called ADAPT, ADAPT, and it's a coding model for blockchain networks. It doesn't have a token. It's not a blockchain network itself, because I think that if I were to put out my own token, I would be working contrary to what I'm trying to build. Instead, I'm trying to build a piece of software that simplifies the development of blockchain and also really accelerates the innovation cycle in blockchain. So if you want to play at the platform level, want to test different kinds of incentives to your miners or validators, different types of transaction economics, it's currently only possible in a very small area, delineated by the smart contract programming. But everything outside of that, the economic model of the platform itself, is not under your control. And so I want to make that under your control, and I want to build a component-based modular toolkit that would allow you to launch your own blockchain, in 3 weeks to a couple of months, depending on complexity, and then tweak some parameters, exactly having your own users in mind, having your user experience in mind, and then be able to iterate it. So agility of blockchain platforms is also something that I'm trying to improve.
so just to make it quite simple, it's just an extra layer or just a toolkit actually to pick elements of existing blockchains, or
Well, kind of like that. It's actually programmable, but yes, you can basically pick a consensus protocol as a component. You can pick your token economics as a component, or you can tweak it a little bit. And I think the way that these systems is programmed, that I'm putting in place, I'm hoping it's really useful. I'm gonna have to try it and learn, right? I don't claim to know the truth, but I think I have like a good start.
and it's actually part of your philosophy as an investment fund. So for instance, to make it practical, you do like an award show, you pick 3 startups, you want to invest, and they can work with this toolkit.
Well, so I don't know what's gonna happen. I just know that if this ecosystem starts taking off, the investors in this space will be served, because the projects will have a way to build something that is much more agile than currently. And because I'm part of Coinfund, I'm really hoping for that synergy to come into play.
Yeah.
But I can't really predict how it will go.
All right. But they support your idea, and of course, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole idea also started because modification of, for instance, a smart contract is quite complex. We also see at the roadmap of Ethereum, it's quite slow.
Yeah, I think improving a blockchain platform is really difficult, and especially because it's really big. So I'm trying to avoid that, and I'm trying to make something work for much smaller blockchain networks, because I think that test and innovation will be improved if you have many small networks rather than one large network. A lot of people disagree with me. There's a lot of people who are saying, no, that can never be secure enough, or something like that. But I think that there's a whole broad range of applications for which this will work much better than the current model, where you talk about gaming or some sort of a database that keeps track of various aspects of things, and something like that, where you don't really need full decentralization. And in fact, a lot of things become much easier if they're partially centralized. And so finding that balance between centralized and decentralized really improves your ability to put fixes in and put changes in.
And actually, you're also inspired, of course, by Linux, by Mozilla, GCC. I mean, open source communities.
Yeah, I really am, and I think that what crypto enthusiasts are actually, I really disagree with the way that crypto enthusiasts think sometimes, because they think that the moment you start paying money, things improve, and that's really not true. Because in many cases, paying money is having a lot of money is very detrimental to the project. I've seen many efforts at creating, economically incentivized Wikipedia or GitHub models that are not really very useful, because the moment there's an economic incentive, people start gaming it and figuring out a way to extract value from it. And it's much better to have a slower moving but much more dedicated community, and I think there's a good chance of that becoming true with the least amount of economic incentives. And so I'm also trying to promote those types of efforts, because right now everything in crypto is about economics, and I think decentralization is so much broader than economics.
Do you also think, I mean, we should be more critical on ICOs? I mean, some of these ICOs ask for at least $50 to $100 million. It's what do they need the money for? I mean,
Don't even start me on that.
do you have example? I mean, of course, we have the example of EOS. I mean, these guys they had like funds of a few $billion. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna, you put me a little bit on the spot there. But truth of the matter is, I believe that overfunding a project is much worse than underfunding it.
All right. Any more comments or?
No, I mean, thanks for having me.